much money do you really need? Usually, when I ask somebody that question, the first answer is, I need $1 million. I need to have $1 million in the bank or saved. But when we dive in, you don't need that much now. Maybe later, but not now. I'm Dr. Beverly Wixon, and this is Money Mindset Magic for female entrepreneurs and other cool people. And I really do want to talk to you today about how much you need and how much you want. I mean, you might want $1 million, but do you need $1 million right now? And even do you want $1 million right now? Because oftentimes also we think we want something and we're like, come here, money, come here, money, come here, money. And it gets close to us and we go, whoa, I'm not ready for that. Because then we get it and we spend it. It goes out. And think about it. If you've ever gotten a bonus at work, what'd you do with it? Did you save it? Did you buy something that you had your eye on for quite a while? Or did you just blow it? I mean, personally, I know that when I was department chair and team leader in my schools, when I got my stipend for that at the end of the year, I know what I did with it. I didn't save it. I didn't go out and buy something that I had my eye on for a while. I took my team and my department out to lunch. And I paid. I rationalized it with, well, they're part of it. They deserve part of this money because, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't have received this. The fact is, I was the one who did most of the work. The fact is, I was the one with the experience. And the fact is, I just didn't know how to handle that extra money. I lived on my paycheck. I mean, I did at the time, back in those days, I kind of pretty much lived paycheck to paycheck with a little bit going into savings. But I didn't think about saving those stipends at first. I did learn. I did learn after about 4 or 5 years of doing that. And I do mean 4 or 5 years of doing it. So it's a lot of money when you look at it that way. I started to realize I don't need to do that. So I started saving half of it, and the other half would go to the department in gifts and different things. I started slowly learning, but it was still a thing of I didn't think I deserved it. I wanted this money, come. But then I got this money and I went, whoa, what do I do with it? Let me give it away. And so that's what I did, because I ended up giving it away. And so I want you to think about how much money do you really, really want right now? Now, if your answer is still you want to have $1 million, the question is, do you want to have it this month, this year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? When is it that you're going to need to have that $1 million? When do you want it by? See, I'm saying need or want because it could be both. We'll talk about the difference between needs and wants later, and the issue with needing becomes a lack later. But for now, it's okay to think need or want, because you probably don't need $1 million right now. And you probably wouldn't know what to do with $1 million right now. And if you don't know what to do with it right now, then you wouldn't really want it. I mean, so often when I ask, if I gave you an extra $10,000, what would you do? People immediately say pay off bills. Well, if I ask you the same thing with $1 million, are you still going to say pay off bills? Because I don't think most of you have bills that are up to $1 million. Right? So what would you do with it? So you got to start thinking about it. You may need it for the future so that you can live comfortably in retirement. Right now, you're working, or you've got a working spouse, or you've got an income in some way, shape, or form coming in. There's going to come a time in your life when your income slows down. Maybe it's when you're living on Social Security. Maybe it's when you have a pension and Social Security, but it's not 100% of what you were earning when you were earning. So that's when you're going to have that money set aside for. So it is set aside for what we here in America call retirement. I like to think of it as simply a change of careers. So you need it for later because, you got to think about what might happen in your older years, right? I can look at relatives and see different things that have happened. Diseases happen much more with the elderly. Hospitalizations happen. And yes, you may have, here in the States, we have Medicare, and you may live in a country where you have health care. We don't have that here in America yet, not standardized health care. So But you may need it for that. You may need it for living in an assisted living facility. And if that's the case, if you own a home, you can sell the home. Now, I know some of you have children and you're thinking, well, I wouldn't want to sell my house because I'd want to leave it to my children. Well, here's the thing. If you need it, it's yours. You know, hopefully, at least your children will be grown by the time by the time you retire, your children will be grown. But so that's what I'm talking about, in your golden years right now, not if something were to happen to you today. So you want it for those things because different things happen to people, and especially as you get older, things happen. You fall, like I said, you become diagnosed with diabetes, you become diagnosed with some other disease that cost you a lot of money, because yes, in this country, insulin medications are outrageously expensive. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. So there's all these different things that can happen to you, and so by that point, you may need several $100,000 saved, or even up to $1 million. And especially if you're in your 20s right now, it might be $1 million by the time you get to retirement age. But do you need it now? Do you even know what you do with it now? So this is where we want to dive in and write down all of your expenses for the month. I'm not saying, do a big budget, because, I'm not into those. I know Nancy Ward is, and other people are, but I'm not big into budgets. So just write down what your expenses are on the average month. And this can include, your rent or mortgage, your electric bill, your water bill if you have one, your gas bill if you have one. I'm talking natural gas for your home if you have one. Also, your gas for your automobile. You can take those annual bills like your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance, auto insurance. You can take all those bills and divide them up by 12 so that it comes out on this thing of what your monthly expenses are. Write those down and divide them by 12, put it down so that you can figure that out. For instance, like I have an annual pass to Disney. I could divide that by 12 and figure out what it costs me monthly to have that, so that I can pay for it, when the time is right. And so I can set that kind of money aside. Write down all these different bills. Your food bills, your average food bill. If you have daycare, what's your average cost of daycare? If you have children and you have to buy clothing at the start of the year, whether it's uniforms for a private school or a magnet school, or whether it's just regular clothes, figure out how much you usually spend and divide that again over 12, so you're divvying it up monthly. It's so that you're getting an idea of how much you're spending every month, or how much you need to save to spend later in the year. Like I said, you buy school clothes probably in July and August, maybe some, what do you spend on the holidays? All that, so that you are putting money away, or at least you've got it in your head. I'm not saying budget, but it's in your head as to how much money you really need to make in a month's time to deal with all these different things throughout the year. And if you are on medications, write that down too. If you have health insurance outside of your job, write that down too. Or if you have to pay for it through your job, then write that down too. So write down all the things that you spend money on in the average month, and that's how much money you really need. And I want you then to take that and add 10%. 10% for saving. Add that to it, and that's how much money, that should be your next goal. So whatever your money goal is right now, if your money goal is simply to pay all your bills, that's your first thing. And then I want you to add down 10%, because that's how much your next goal is. Now, if you're already earning more than what you need per month to pay all your bills, you've got that written down. Look at how much extra you have. Where are you putting that? Are you putting that into retirement savings? Are you putting that into a dream account? Are you putting that into stocks and bonds? Where are you putting that extra money? Still add 10%, because every time you're doing a money goal, you should be looking at about a 10% increase for the next goal. Now, does that mean that next goal is going to be achieved in the next month? No. It might be 3 months from now. Depending on the amount, if your amount is, $1,000 is what you're making and you want to make $1,100, that could happen in a month. If, however, you're making $10,000 a month, and so your next goal is, what would that be, 11,000, an extra 1,000, it might take you 2 months. It might take you a month. If your current goal is 50, if you're making $50,000 a month and that's an extra 5,000, you never know. It could be different for everybody. And honestly, the higher your current number, adding that 10% is probably easier than if your current number is lower. Because when you're making, $800 a month, trying to find an extra 80 may feel much harder than if you're making $50,000 a month and you're like, I need to make an extra 5,000, or I want to make an extra 5,000 so that I can put away for whatever. That may seem a lot easier because of the fact you're already making 50,000. Whereas if you're only making $800 to $1,000 a month, finding that extra $80 or $100 seems really hard. And so if you're down at that, if you're only making $800 to $1,000 to $1,200 a month, and you're saying you want $1 million, your brain is going, are you freaking crazy? Your brain is saying, at the rate you're going, $1,000 a month, you know how long it's going to take you to even earn $1 million? So how do you think you're going to save it? And then you're going, well, I can't save it, so what the heck? Why bother? That's what's going on in your head. So what I want you to do is, like I said, make the list, look at it, add 10%, and think, okay, if you're making all those payments, you're paying all those bills, that extra 10% could come fairly easily. When you start to look at what you're already doing, what you're already earning, what you're already making payments on, then you start to realize bringing in just a little more isn't that hard. When you're not looking at it on paper and it's all up here, that's when your brain has the opportunity to say, no, you can't do it. Sorry. It'll take you too long to even earn $1 million. You're never going to save $1 million. You're crazy if you want that. You're crazy if you think you can even make 10% more. Where are you going to get 10% more? When it's all up here, that frees the brain up to say, holy crap. When you write it down and you make it real, your brain doesn't have the opportunity to say as much. And if it starts saying it, the next step is write down the stuff the brain is saying. Write down everything your brain is saying, because then you're able to look at it and go, is that true? No. Is it true that it's going to take me the rest of my life to earn $1 million? No. I mean, if you're making $1,000 a month, where's my phone? If you're making $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. So in 10 years, you've made $120,000, and that's not counting raises. So let's see. Let me just figure this out mathematically, see if I can do this, because math is not my thing. If you're making $12,000 a year, 1 divided by 12. Well, it would take you 83 years to make $1 million. But like I said, that's not counting any kind of pay raises, and you know you're going to get pay raises over the year. And that's only $1,000 a month. And you're probably making more than that without even knowing it, whether it's from a paycheck or whether it's from other places. Because that's the other thing. You count your income from everywhere, not just your salary. So, how long will it take you to make $1 million on your current salary? And if you do look at it and say it's 83 years, then we're not looking at $1 million. So stop saying that, and your brain will be much more comfortable. If you're looking at, well, I make $1,000 a month, it'll take me over 83 years to even earn $1 million, then bring it down to 100,000. Now you're talking like 8 years. Because like I said, if you're making $1,000 a month, in 10 years, you've made $120,000. So bring that number down to where your brain stops freaking out so that you can add that 10%. And then do the same exercise as you've been adding that 10%. you'll start to see you're getting closer and closer and closer. And your brain won't freak out as much when you start to say, go from $100,000 to $200,000 to $300,000. And before you know it, you can say, I want to have $1,000,000 without your brain going, holy crap, nope, not going to happen. Freaking me out here. It's too much work. Go in baby steps. Don't try to jump from here to beyond the screen in one step. Take little baby steps, 10% increases. Because if you get 1% better every day, frankly, by the end of the month, you're 30% better. That includes if you're finding 1% more money every day. At the end of the month, you're 30% to the good. So if you're only looking at 10%, if that's what we're going to focus on, that's awesome. That gives you 1% every 3 days. You can do that, right? That's easy. So make it to where your brain is okay with it. And if that includes clearing things out, right? Like I said, write down the stuff that your brain is screaming at you. And then we'll clear it. So that's pretty much it for today. Do you really need $1,000,000? No, you don't. Do you even really want $1,000,000? No, you probably don't. Might be a few people in here who do, but the majority of people in here don't really want $1,000,000 because your brain thinks that's too hard. So make it, you got to play with your brain. Give it a smaller number. Slowly get up there. Then in a couple of years, you'll be ready to say $1,000,000 without any problems. So, by the way, in case you didn't know, I am going to do a free challenge in here starting March 20th. It's going to be March 20th to March 24th at noon each day. That's Monday through Thursday. That's in about 2 weeks. And we're going to talk all about practical manifesting, how you can achieve whatever you want, all your desires, with simple practical exercises. It's actually, the official name is Practical Manifesting, Achieve What You Desire with Ease. And we're using desire as an acronym to make it nice and simple so that you can remember all the steps. And they're really not that hard. Some of them kind of smush together. Okay? They're really simple. They're things, videos will be less than 30 minutes a day because I don't like to do long videos. And it'll take you less than 30 minutes a day to do the exercise. Promise. I don't want you to spend more than 30 minutes a day. Now, if you choose to spend an hour, that's on you, but I don't want you to. So, because I believe in baby steps to get you to where you're going rather than giant leaps. Most of us are not we're not heading for the moon right now. We're just heading to make these little baby steps to get there. Okay. So hope you have a lovely day. And if you do have questions about the challenge, put them in the comments below. I'll put the link to register so that because if you register, you'll get reminders, and I'm not going to flood you with reminders, don't worry, but you'll also be able to get the play sheets. If you don't register, you're not going to get the play sheets because they're going to come in the email. Okay, so I'll pop that in the comments below so you can register, and let me know if you do, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.